Welcome to the Paths We Take podcast. I'm your host, Jordan DeSange. Let's hit a path. This episode is also brought to you by the Stay Strong Run Project. You can visit staystrongrun.com.au to learn more, but basically in March, I will be running 2 marathons every day for 7 straight days. That is nearly 600 kilometers for the Breakthrough Foundation Mental Health Research. You can head to my Instagram to learn more. You can learn more about my story there, about my story with depression, with suicide, and the reason why I am doing this. I want to demonstrate that you can continue, you can keep going no matter how hard life gets, no matter how hard things get, no matter how much your body is telling you to stop, your mind is telling you to stop, you can keep going and you can stay strong. So again, you can visit staystrongrun.com.au to learn more. You can also head there to donate if you'd like, or to reach out to me personally if you have a story that you want to share to get off your chest, or if you can get involved in any way. I am looking for a support crew for the entire 7 days, as well as help leading up. I cannot do this alone. So you can reach out to me on the website. My contact info is there as well. And that is the Stay Strong Run Project. Thank you. So living in Australia, you definitely need a good pair of sunnies. You need a good pair of sunnies during the winter, during the summer. It doesn't really matter because the sun can be shining any time of the year here. I wear Your Run sunnies just because they are clear, they are bounce free, they are stylish, and they are intended for running. So you can of course wear them whenever really. But I think finding a good running sunnie is very hard to find because sometimes they fog up. Sometimes you're running and they start moving, bouncing around your face. Sometimes you have to take them off of your face because you go through a shady area or whatever it might be. The thing about Your Run sunnies is they are made for running. So again, they don't move when you run. They adapt to the lights that you go through. So if you are going through a shady part, if you're going into bright sun, the lenses adapt to the changes of light, which is awesome. You don't need to flick them on and off of your face. And they look great, they feel great, and they are durable. So definitely visit reyourrun.com.au and you can use Jordan10, the code, to save some money on there as well. Thank you, Your Run, for supporting this episode, and definitely check them out if you have time. Well, welcome back, Beau, to the show. Welcome back to the podcast. I think we were saying earlier that it's been almost 2 years, I reckon, since I think you were one of the first guests that I had in the studio, actually, back when I revamped the show. So yeah, it's come, I'm sure you've been up to a lot really in the last 2 years.
It's been busy.
Yeah. But for the listening right now, because this is something new the last year that I started asking people, if the person listening had an autobiography in front of them and it was your story, basically, what are some things or some cliff notes that you think people would read in that story that is important to you?
It's a big way to start. I found a lot about myself through hardships, I think. So I have definitely learned that especially over the last, say, 4 to 6 years in particular, that it's through walking through the fire that you end up finding a lot about yourself. They're the biggest things for me, and that things can change your direction in your life at any point. So having my son come into my world, the things that I cared about prior to him don't necessarily matter as much anymore. So parenthood's definitely changed me in that way. And the same goes as owning a business. It's like, I think everyone dreams of wanting to own a business, and then when you're in it and you're like, holy shit, it can change your direction and your past and the things that you value and your behaviors. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed for me as I've gotten to the ripe age of 35 is that things can change at any point, and also just that you don't know unless you walk through the fire. For sure.
I think like this is actually something that I was watching a couple reels on this morning when I was first getting up about, because like to me that sounds like it is building that resilience, building that persistence really, and I think that's something that is very rare these days
Mm.
because when a challenge comes, it's often, I don't want to say it breaks people, but it's often like, oh, well, this isn't going to work out. Let's maybe switch gears and do something else, really. So
Yeah.
I think, like, to push through, and, you're just talking earlier that this has been now too for Hyrox, it's been a while that you've been doing it. Like,
Mm.
that resilience, I think, is a rarity that a lot of people don't really display anymore these days. When it comes to the last 4 years, when it comes to maybe even the last 2 years since you've been on, really,
Yeah.
what's it looked like, going from business owner to coach to Hyrox to, being an athlete? What does that look like, and what is your world like there?
Yeah, it's been quite the journey, especially the last 2 years in particular. I know even using the word athlete, we talked about this
We did.
briefly earlier as well. Still for me is like mind blowing. To be able to be on a team with a team of people supported by a brand that see me as someone that can strive towards whatever it is that I'm focusing on. It's pretty crazy. So the first thing is like having the support is the biggest thing that I think people need, because if anyone out there is like me, there's a lot of self-doubt and there's a lot of mental barriers that probably stop people from doing the things that they actually want to do.
Did you ever feel it difficult to ask for the help or to get the support? What's that like for you?
I definitely don't feel dumb asking a dumb question,
Okay.
especially these days. I would rather ask the question and know the answer than not ask the question at all and kind of go, well, what could have happened? And a lot of people are really afraid to put themselves out there. So you've got to be okay with the feedback that can be really good sometimes and can be really negative sometimes at the same point, and address it in where you put your focus. And some people use the negativity as fire to help them push harder, and other people just block out the noise and only worry about the good stuff. But it's definitely, we're in a different world of where performance is one part of what I think athletes are doing out there, but it's showcasing that even people that might be highly athletic but not exactly winning all the competitions can still do really well because of the market and where brands need to pivot and go to within the industry anyway.
I think they're looking for personability as well.
Yeah.
Like, are you a good athlete? Yes, like you were saying. But are you a not necessarily personable athlete, but are you doing good in the space as well?
Yeah.
Because like you were saying too, like you don't need to necessarily be that winner a lot of the times, and a lot of like you see these big brands these days and you see the athletes that they're supporting, and a lot of these athletes that I follow maybe aren't the ones that are out winning or anything like that, but they seem like they're cool people really.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people are looking for these days. They want
It's like relatable, right?
exactly, they want something personal, they want something relatable, they want something a bit real these days. And I think we've come full circle, because even you look at, let's say, going to social media, 3 years ago it was all the short form content, and now people are looking to get to know people a little bit more, and they're looking for that side of things really. For you, you've been, I guess in that world of being an athlete now. I would probably say even last time you were on, I would have considered an athlete, but
Thank you.
each to their own. But what is that world like? Like, let's maybe go into Hyrox. Let's go into
Yep.
that world, because it is a booming industry in sport these days. Really, everybody is doing it. It's growing and exploding. Really, what is that world? On your side of things, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's still new. I mean, a lot of people are just getting into it for the first time, and then there are people like me that have been doing it for 3 years straight without a rest break or a day off. So it's it's incredible what it's done for the industry, how it's created like another thing for people to focus on. Really, hybrid fitness racing is that for people. I think a lot of boutique gyms opened with a really cool concept of getting people moving. If you go back to 2017 when F45 kind of kicked off. It was people being in a room, exercising, all doing the same thing. But eventually, goals and focuses of people need to become paramount and the reason why you exercise. And that's where I think we're at now within the fitness industry is people really, I don't know that many people that just go through the motions of just doing exercise for the sake of doing it. And I've talked a lot lately with people about the difference between exercise and training. So it's not saying that you can't do that. There's my dearest friend, Richard, who's 83 plus years old, that literally gets to the gym 3 times a week. And then most recently just went on a really big holiday, so I haven't seen him for a while. But Richard's not worried about breaking any records or running his first Hyrox. He's ticking the box and he's having a great time and he's keeping fit and mobile and hopefully injury-free. But there's a lot of people and there's a large volume of people, especially in Australia, that are, racing every weekend, whether that's running, Hyroxing, hybrid fitness racing, doing their own group gyms, next games day. It's everywhere. So I think it's amazing for the fitness landscape, and Adelaide's such a small part of, in Australia. If you go to the Gold Coast, it's huge up there. And I think if you go down near the beach on a Sunday, what I'm hearing is that it's just bumper to bumper and everyone's out getting after it, which is crazy. So it's becoming less of it used to be weird that people would go out and run 20Ks on a Sunday. Now it's like weird if you don't go and do that, which it blows my mind that's where we're at.
It's exploded. I think like the world of hybrid has exploded multiple industries, like I think that's not my world. That's not what I know, but I do see it bleeding into the running space, for example, because it's a big part of what you're doing as well. And I think like it's a great opportunity for all industries because it brings diversity. It brings another take on things. And, you look at running, for example, it's something that I've done my entire life. And running used to be the boring thing, whereas now it's like the cool, trendy thing, really. And I think a lot of it is because of what, like you're saying, where this space is going. It's kind of cool to go out for a run on Sunday now. It's cool to train. It's cool to do this and that. And I think like, I don't know. I feel like spaces like this that are starting, that are emerging, that have exploded, can complement one another. Like it doesn't need to be looked at in any other way, really, in that regard, really.
A lot of my training in the last year has been off the back of listening to people that do running podcasts or stuff on Instagram around different athletes that just focus on a single modality of exercise. And I know that running is going to help any Hyroxer. It's my big tip that anyone can take from this podcast. Obviously, there's nearly 9 kilometers of running within the race, in total. And then there's a lot of station work that can slow you down and almost be like a hurdle. But if you're running efficiently and you're up there, racing yourself every week to try to push how much you can get the most out of yourself, I think it's going to help you within your racing and within your Hyrox journey anyway. It's
quite interesting, the whole Hyrox. I think we brushed on it last time, really, but for the person listening right now, we get a lot of triathletes, runners, whatever, listening to the show. What exactly are you doing out on in the stage?
Within the track.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, the first thing you do is you have to get a ticket, and tickets these days are going like Taylor Swift tickets. So the idea is you plan your race day around whichever state you want to go and visit to. So the next one that I'm in is Melbourne. So I do a pro doubles event. You can do solo pro, doubles pro, solo open, doubles open, mixed doubles, relay with 3 other friends. The big thing that you can probably take from all that is that there's a lot of options. So it's got your first timer that just wants to get in and have a crack with their friends. It's got their competitive people like myself that want to go and compete against themselves and other athletes. It's got your everyday. It's got people over the age of 60 that are doing it. So it's got age group brackets where you can place quite highly within your age group. Helps being a little bit older, which is great for times wise. But the thing that I've found through most of it is it's easy accessible. There's even for people with disabilities and stuff, there's the adaptive divisions, which I just love. Like the fact that there's time periods throughout the event weekend where they block it off, where the adaptive guys get out there and get after it, and being around and watching that, it's pretty cool to see. It's inspiring. And it makes me, when I race in particular, not take movement for granted, which is probably the big pillar that I think a lot of people miss. They get so caught up in the toxic nature, which I'm sure we'll talk about or touch on, that they miss the point of the fact that everyone pays to be there and everyone's just having a crack. So, it's pretty much you get your ticket, you obviously pick your division that you're going to race in, and then I usually have between me and 200 to 300 other teams in the event. So they have to then, you get a start time. You generally put in your speed of which you would like to go at, whether it's under an hour finish time, over an hour, whatever. And then that dictates when your wave is. And you normally go off with between 20 to 30 other teams at one given time. And they let everyone go, and it's a race to the finish line, and it's pretty good fun. But when you're in the start tent and they're playing the music, and everyone who's done a Hyrox knows the feeling, it's it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, gets the adrenaline
gets the heart
going.
rate pumping.
Yeah. I've seen a few videos, more than a few. Yeah, and it's quite a cool concept. And I think too, what I find cool about it is it's pretty consistent. Like I feel like from the clips that I've seen, if you go to Melbourne, if you go to Brisbane, like it feels like it's a similar experience, which I think is in the athlete world, in, anybody that's out there, is pretty important, because that's the last thing that you want. Like, you think about race day in any sport, really, the last thing that you want is to attend and then have the unexpected, really, like, oh, I wasn't prepared for all of this. And I understand there's a rule book and all of that, but I think it does help when it comes to, you do need things to be consistent in that regard. I know, like Tony and Nat have been on, and they were talking about like the what are they called? Refs, or who? Judges. Yeah. Like that side of things as well. Like, it's quite important for them to be pretty consistent and make sure that, you're handling, let's say, your recreational versus pro, like a bit differently as well. All of that, I think, makes quite a difference when it comes to that space. Yeah. What is your mental experience like? Think back to 2 years ago versus now, for example. What is that, and how has that evolved? Because I think, like with anything, the more you do, the more mental toughness you get, really, right? So how has that been for you?
The race is just as hard as when I first remember doing it. I've played with different divisions, pro and open. I've done relays. The relay is supposed to be like the one that you maybe only do 2 of the implements instead of all 8 with the 8 kilometers, and the relay hurt just as much as like a pro solo. So I've toyed with, like, over the last 3 years of doing it, I've done a pro solo up in Brizzy. I've done multiple pro doubles, which is clearly my favorite event. So I guess I found my one that I love doing. Open doubles I've recently fallen back in love with, in the way of, I didn't really ever like doing 2 races in a weekend, just because I'm a bit of a softie, and I like I've also got a lot of athletes that do it, and I need to go and support them. But that's taught me a lot of that mental toughness of, I'll do a race which I might highlight, which will be the pro race, and then I'll go and have a run around in the open, which is normally like at a rapid pace, where I'm like, I'm not going to be able to hold that speed that my partner would like to go on, and you just find another gear and you block it out, and it's pretty cool. So I've definitely taught myself through evidence of going to do it that A, you can handle hard things, and B, I just look at it like a giant workout now. I think when I started, I built it up to be this big thing of like, shit, I've got an event on, and I've raced horribly and had like, I could have easily not quit, but been like, done a pro solo and been like, I'm over this whole thing. Like, I had the worst time ever out there in my own head. And the back of that was really hard to get over. And that's only through my own expectation. No one else gave a fuck about what I did or what time I got, or there probably weren't, or there might have been people laughing at me, which is fine. But I just dealt with the fact of like, no one cares, and you care more than the people that you think do. So the mental resilience more comes from just knowing that it's coming up. The training is actually harder than the thing itself, I found, which is another tip for those listening that are getting into it. A lot of people sign up for things and then complain about the things that you have to do to be ready for the thing. that I can't understand. Like for me, I'm like, if I'm going to run an ultra, which is 100 kilometers, I'm probably going to have to do a fuck ton of work before I go and do that to be able to cope with the stress and the demand of that event, right? So therefore, I'm not, in my head, I'm not allowed to complain for the work that it takes for me to do those things. Unfortunately, what I see happen for a lot of the athletes that I coach is that they want to do the thing, and then you get given the homework to go and do the thing, and it's like, fuck, this is really hard, and it sucks, and it's boring. And people want that like high stim, high feeling. They want to feel good, and the amount of times I've had to say it's not meant to feel good. It's great, and you know the feeling when training feels really good. I know why people want it, because it's like, that felt so good. I feel so good in myself. I'm feeling myself. I'm feeling sexy. I'm feeling everything. But majority of the time, it's not that.
This episode is brought to you by Cova House Running. Now, I founded Cova House Running and this company because I found the running scene was getting a bit fuzzy. I think things are getting lost in the whole running world, and I really wanted to build a business and build a brand that honed in on just running. I think running has come a long way in the last couple of years, and we all do it for different reasons, and that's what this brand is about. It is about representing every runner, and not just the fast runner, not just the elite runner, not just the runner that can run the longest. Running is such a big part of a lot of people's lives, and everybody does it for a different reason. Whether you are a road runner, whether you are a trail runner, whether you run in Hyrox or another sport, running is for everybody. So you can visit kova.house, KOVA.HAUS to shop now. The full men's origin collection is out now, and the women's collection will be out early next year, 2027. We are also going to be dropping the Stay Strong Run collaboration, where proceeds to this shirt will go to Breakthrough Foundation, and this will be a unisex shirt. Thank you all. It's so rare, isn't it? I've so maybe rare. In the last month had like 2 sessions really that have felt good. You know what I mean? Like everything else has been a grind, and it hasn't been, you know, it has me sometimes questioning, oh, what the hell am I doing? You know what I mean? Exactly. And I think that's the reality. And that's not just sport. I think with anything really, like this concept of things feeling easy right away or things being quick, really, I think is just something that's been instilled in a lot of people, unfortunately. We expect to go to bed one night one way and then wake up miraculously, you know, improved or whatever. And it's not like that, unfortunately. And I think that goes with sport, that goes with business, that goes with anything, really. And yeah, I relate that so much to, again, running, because like I was saying, like I have significantly more trainings where I'm like, 100%. What the hell am I doing, compared to, oh, this was actually pretty smooth and I'm excited for this event coming up, really.
I haven't gone into an event not sick, and it blows people's mind because they're like, what do you do wrong? You mustn't do this. I'm like, I sleep. My nutrition is horrible. So I will say that that's a big pillar for me, that I just either don't prioritize or just go whatever, food. When if I actually got that right, that would probably help. But yeah, I haven't had an event of late that I can remember that I haven't gone into under the weather, flu-y, gastro symptoms, like where you need electrolytes while you're out there. And I've been not shitting my pants, but I've been so nervous that I'm like, I'm going to do this thing, which is going to take a lot of me, and I'm just under the weather to do it. And there's probably like 300 other athletes that are also feeling that way. And that's what I just kept reminding myself through those days of like, it's not just you on the start line. The guy next to me might be feeling $1 million, and that's great. But there's probably a lot of other people that were also crook. And it is what it is. You just kind of push through, you block it out, do what you need to, and get the job done.
That's a key thing. Like you've done this for what, 3-4 years now?
Yeah, 2023 must have been my first one. I think I was training for it in 2022. I remember going to like a totally random gym when I owned my own gym, because we didn't have the equipment provided, like the sleds and that sort of thing, which are now in every gym known to man. And my best mate and I just did this thing, which it was like a Hyrox. And I was like, surely you do the kilometers, like you do 500 and I do 500. And he's like, no, we both run a K. And I was like, fuck. Coming from a footballing background though, I just fell in love with it. And the idea of like mixing running, cardiovascular training and different modalities with strength training, right into the world of which I've always loved. And yeah, opened up like a new doorway of like, well, this is actually a cool way to train. Doing not the bodybuilding style training, but being the kid that was 50 kilos that had to put on a lot of weight to play footy. Tried that sort of world, and I think that kind of was where my love for that style started back in when I was 17, 18, trying to put on muscle and size, but also trying to play quite athletically at a higher level, playing against adults when I was still a teenager. That's what sparked that love of competition and wanting to balance the two. And now you go to every gym and they're a Hyrox affiliate gym, or it's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's a cool, like, I think too, that's what maybe people are wanting is that competitive side of things. Because it's very natural for, let's say, an athlete to stop one sport and then feel like, well, what's next really? Yep. And I think that's where the fitness space comes into play for a lot of people. Like, I think a lot of people have a similar experience when it comes to, I've stopped one thing, maybe for an injury or maybe for time or whatever. They find the gym or they find Hyrox or they find this other thing. And naturally you want to, maybe they don't want to compete, but you get that form of competitiveness as well, like they got from sport. And I don't think you can get that from, just going to the gym sometimes, really. Like, I think that's the difference to me, how I see it, really. And with saying that, like, I assume it goes back to like CrossFit days. I did CrossFit maybe 10 years ago now. And like, it goes back to those days. There were maybe like, when you look at all of your members in the gym, in a CrossFit gym, probably like 5% competed. Everybody else did it to stay fit. Everybody else did it because, they wanted to get their 45 minutes in before work or after work or whatever it might be, right? Like, I think it's just a different style of moving. And a lot of people prefer going to a group class. It's less intimidating. You get told what to do. It takes a whole lot out of out of your day, really, to plan what to do in the gym, and you might not get effective. So like, I think it does help in that regard. Like, a lot of people, I assume, at these Hyrox gyms are doing it because they get their 45 minutes in and they're done, really.
There's a lot of people that do Hyrox style sessions that don't do Hyrox, and that will potentially not ever want to sign up to an event, whether that's because they can't get a ticket or if it's because they're just not interested. And it's out of the time commitments, the thing that if getting to the gym at 6 o'clock is a challenge for them, having someone waiting there that's got your program ready, that you don't have to think, that will guide you. And the amount of times I've had people that are like, I'm not interested in like running or doing any of that. You can pivot, you can change, you can tweak. Just because a Hyrox class may be going, you can moderate and change that workout for that particular member when you're in a group setting anyway. And group training's just exploded as well. So I think it's a community thing within fitness, which is just so popular right now. But it allows different doorways of people to have something to focus on. They might do it for a couple of years and then the next thing will come around and who knows what that's going to be. But it's a pretty big wave at the moment.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, for sure. And I think like you hit something interesting there when it comes to like the time commitment. Like, I think a lot of people are okay, and this is like probably the majority, I would say. Like, a lot of people prefer just to go for their hour session and then be done with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it is more on the rare side for somebody to want to go to a competition, whether it be Hyrox, whether it be a running race or a road race or whatever it might be. Because I think too, like, to sign up for an event, there is more of a time commitment that needs to be put in. And then you have all of the underlying categories as well, like we were talking off air, when it comes to how much time you need to put in for, let's say, a pro race or whatever it might be, really. And not everybody has 16 hours
Absolutely
to train
not.
for a half Ironman. Like, that's a big reason why I don't have one. Like my last one was in November and I don't have another one planned for probably a couple of years because I don't really want to train 20 plus hours a week, really. Like
that's like the natural progression.
Exactly,
like train in the gym, do a Hyrox, do a triathlon,
and then do like a full
Superman.
Exactly. Like it's just like you really have to be in the right space, I think, around the right people, but also really like figure out what your why is. Like, why are you wanting to put in the 20 hours? You know what I mean? Like, because a lot of times too, when you are signing up for these races, you're not getting anything out of it. You're not getting money, whatever. Like, I hate like I hate to say, you're like, unless you're an elite, like, gonna win, like, you're not gonna get much out of it, really. So
there's no money in it.
No, exactly. From that side of things, right? I think there's like a lot more you'll get out of it, but that's where your why comes in. And I think like that's a very different thing when it comes to because you have to coach, people when they're out there, and people migrating and working in work life and family life and this and that. Like, what is it like for you when it comes to education around people committing to something? Because it can be a hard thing, I think.
There's a process I go through. So it's getting someone interested is one thing. So there's obviously the interest catchment way of doing it. Once they get, I might even have times throughout my career that I've told people, I don't think this is where your focus should be. And it's having that hard conversation of like, someone's really keen to go and do this thing, but then I'll go, well, how many hours a week can you commit is normally one of the first questions. And if the answer is under what I believe is capable for them to be able to do the thing, I'm not going to encourage it. So, it's always having those hard convos of like, the first thing I would say to the listener is having it with themselves first before they reach out to their trainer and going like, what is my why behind wanting to go and do this thing? Is it just because you're seeing it on Instagram and it's catchy and it looks good? And a great example is like a lot of the people that do Hyrox, I get questions about like, why is their body that way? Or like, how do they look so good? And they must be on peptides and they must be on steroids. And I'm like, why are you worried? Like, to me, Hyrox is a performance goal. So if you have performance, physique and lifestyle, it's over here. It's not I'm not looking at Hyrox just because of what you look like when you do Hyrox. And like most of the dudes that beat me look so different to me. Not that I look like, I don't look at myself and go like, fuck, you're elite. I just mean like, it's crazy. The guys in the elite, the dudes that win, look like pro runners. And I think there's this this thing in people's heads of like, they must look like Nick Bear or Hunter McIntyre, who are like the anomalies of like, God only could, if I wish I could look like that when I do it. But I just think that goes back to what's your goal. So if you're doing a thing and it's maybe that it's totally fine to have a physique goal, but then if you're then focusing on training for performance, are you okay with the fact of that's probably not really just going to be something, it's going to distract you from what you really need to be worried on, which is what's your running splits like, how much consistency you're doing, how many hours are you putting in. I probably went a little bit off topic there, but I think your question was more back into like coaching people through it. It all goes back to those three things which I ask people about with their goals, which is the first point of any consultation. It doesn't matter if it's someone coming for PT or someone interested in Hyrox training. It's what's your goal? And sometimes the answer I get directly back is like under an hour 10, right? So they're already thinking about the time. And I have to pull them back straight away and go, forget that. Because you mentioned before, Hyrox is consistent, but my race in Brisbane isn't like my race in Perth, which isn't like my race in Melbourne. They're supposed to be the same, but they're different tracks. A runner doesn't compare the Gold Coast Marathon to the Melbourne Marathon. It's the same sort of thing. So I just think different conditions, different weather, different track feel and layout, like it all makes a difference. And they're all on different days and different times. Sometimes I've raced at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes I've raced at 8:30 at night.
Oh, okay. That makes a big difference for sure.
I think people forget all that. So the timing thing's great. Like I definitely shouldn't clip that and go like, forget it. But I worry that if you get too focused on it, from experience, I had like sub 60 written on my phone as my screensaver when I'd never done a solo race before. I was an idiot. Like, because I got caught into the rush of like, I can do like sub 60, like my training's doing this. I'm following like an elite program that so-and-so's doing. And I went and raced and I got so caught up in what I thought I should be doing that I just blew up like completely, and I'd never experienced anything like it. And it was horrible. And as I mentioned before, it almost put me off wanting to do it again. And everyone's like, when's your next one? And I'm like, I think I want to do the thing that really stopped me from doing this. I will do it one day because I feel like I need to get redemption. But it's pretty crazy. Anyway, so I just think for people to really work out their why is huge, and it's deeper than just that particular event. Because how do you then, so you go and do a Hyrox and you get a time, is the goal to just continually to keep trying to beat that time? Because it's not that fucking easy. And it's not that simple. And in the 3 years that I've done it, my times haven't dramatically gone from like this time cut right back to, I'm 10 minutes quicker. The founders have talked in podcasts before about how they've literally made it with the station so that it's not necessarily possible for it to keep getting quicker. The question of like, can a solo pro athlete go under 50 minutes? Like they've made it a particular style of event where the ski ergs are at the front and the rowers at number 5. Both of those aren't just going to miraculously be a 2-minute effort by some incredible human robot that goes out and can do it in 2 minutes. It's not going to happen. So therefore you always have to cater for the fact that those 2 stations plus you're running, you're already looking at anywhere between 30 to 50 plus minutes of work just there.
And I think too, like, I wonder if you just kind of sometimes have to go through that, like the whole everything being so focused on, I want to hit this time, I want to hit this time. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, because I've gone through that as well, and it wasn't until maybe the last couple of years that I've been like less time focused, more on all of these other things really. And I think that's what's helped performance long term, when you actually focus on getting better at running, for example, right? Like, I think for me, it's always been like you were saying, I'm doing Gold Coast Marathon, I need to like hit this time, I need to get it faster, but not actually learning and not actually listening through the process really. And I wonder if that's just what some athletes need, you know what I mean? Because I know for me, that's what I needed. Like, I think I would have still been in that space if I hadn't of, let's say, repeatedly failed, really, like realized, I'm not getting these times, to now understanding, maybe I just need to actually sit down, put in the work and learn the process. Like my focus now over the next year is to actually get good at running. And what I mean by that is actually go through the proper sessions, actually really focus on hitting your threshold, sticking to your threshold, listening to coach. If you're listening to this, I know I don't listen a lot of the times, like those things I think are things sometimes some athletes have to go through, just that repeatedly getting knocked down and then being like, okay, well, something needs to change. Maybe it's me, you know what I mean? And I think unfortunately that switch is what is forgotten, that whole, maybe it's me, maybe I need to do something differently, versus continuing to, let's just jump ship and find another coach, or let's just go and do this really. That's so right. It's a very interesting space, I think, when it comes to discussing that really.
When things are for time, you'll know just in how you perform. Like if someone isn't sure if this is for them, my suggestion would be do a workout that's for time and see what it does for you. Because as much as I've said how it's a really quick way to put you off of something, it probably shortens your lifespan of doing the thing. For me, that's actually what's kept me going, is like I'm so driven to find out what's the source. I've kind of got like, I've got the nice zinger burger made up in front of me. It's a bit spicy. It's probably lacking some mayo. What's the secret sauce to make it go from this to that? And that's what I enjoy through it. It's not the like who you become in the process and how you do stuff. What you talked about is exactly where my headspace went in my last block, where it was like, just make everything feel really easy was a target. And that's because of the stuff I talked to you about off air with like injury and things that you can go through where life happens. Your bucket gets pretty full with work, commitments, family, everything else. Training's this extra stressor. And if you make training too stressful, it becomes less of a priority. And I think that's where people can fall off the wagons and jump ships and hop around from gym to gym and try to find, there's no miraculous program that's going to fix it. It's probably the person themselves going like, I need to sort my shit out. And you find out that through the hard way, unfortunately.
And I think like there's probably no correct answer too. You know what I mean? Like I think everybody just has to go through it and figure out what works for them, because I know for me, like I get asked all of the time and I've never ever given tips. I've made videos and like I apologize for making the videos about like, oh, marathon tips or this and that. But like, I'm a big believer that like it's, you can't really give a tip for, you know, how you tackle event. Like, yes, you can, I guess. But like, I think you really have to learn what works for you, because for me, like when it comes to carb loading, do it a lot differently than a lot of runners, for example. And if I told people what I did and they followed that, there's a good chance that they would crash and burn, because, you know, it's not the norm, but like that works for me. So I think too, like you just kind of have to sometimes figure out what works for you. And a lot of the times it is through listening, getting that guidance really, because when you have those tips from, let's say, a coach, for example, like they've gone through it, they know, you know, what works for them. And if you try it and it doesn't, then figure out something else really. I think that's very important.
And it's doing the reps. And it goes back to the relation of that to like a bench press. With a lot of people would be familiar with a bench press, and there'll be some people that have never done one before. But the only way to continue getting better at that is to do the reps of the exercise. In any which way or form that you can to get better and get more familiar and lift more weight. There's never an end to it. You know, it's not like you're ever going to hit your ceiling if that's the maximum of weight you're ever going to be able to do. You can always learn new techniques, new ways of doing things, new training protocols to change something to in turn get better at it. But not enough people will do the boring work that it takes in order to do those things. That's what I've learned through the process.
Or I've learned that it's a different focus when it comes to training. Like you can't win training. I'm sorry, like you can't. you could, I guess.
I
you
always say Hyrox is the winner.
Yeah.
It's so funny you said that. Whenever anyone asks me, like, how'd you go? I'm like, Hyrox is the winner. Like, look at how many people are doing this thing. These guys are like minted.
Yeah, exactly. But like
we're here having fun.
Exactly. That's the thing, really. Like it's doing the reps. It's continuing to go out there and realizing that, like, again, every training, going back to what we already discussed, every training's gonna be different, and like you can't win training. So just like go to training, put in the work, and I think too, it just like trust the process really, and trust what you're following, because that's something that I've struggled with until the last couple of years as well, is trusting the process, trusting in, let's say, a coach, for example, thinking that, oh, you know, I feel like I can go harder, so I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? And not realizing that instead of like just focusing on that session, when you have a coach, the coach is focusing on the full picture really, which is where I think sometimes some athletes lack. Like they look at the short term and not the long term. And for me, that's why I have a coach, is because I need help with that long term really. If you go back to, we were discussing coaching, and when you're out there, you also have athletes that you have to worry about, really. That puts a lot more on your plate when you're out there, let's say. What is that process like for you when it comes to planning, when it comes to planning your weekend out on the race, because you sometimes might need to be multiple places, do multiple things? What is that world like for you?
It's pretty horrible. I mean, you can probably see it in my face. I have probably let more people down in my head anyway than what I mean, I hope I haven't, but I just know that you can't be in one place. When you're one person, you can't be in more than one place at once. And the times that people get are like, sometimes I'm on a plane flying out of the event, and a funny story of the last event I did in Sydney, there were people that I coached that were just coming off of the plane from Sydney as I was boarding. So they went to Sydney from Adelaide, raced, got back before I'd even got on the plane. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I hope you had a great time. Obviously, Hyrox is great in the fact that you can watch data, and Chris Baines is someone I look up to. He's a regular Instagram Hyrox dude that he's a coach, and he's got up to 400 athletes. He's never going to be able to ensure that every athlete is getting the most out of their race day. So I try and just, through the process of the coaching, in the time that I do get with the people that I do get to be in front of, it's like understanding that the experience is theirs and theirs alone, and having me there screaming on the sideline. I'm seeing it become a lot more prevalent these days. There are coaches that are strictly just coaching, and I compare it to like a footballer that's playing in the team. When I was playing footy, there were coach captains where they were kind of on the field coaching the team. They'd pull the boys in, and I used to really look up to people that were like that. And I'm like, he's out there, he's leading the way, he's making the tackles, he's doing the smothers, and then he's pulling the boys in and saying, this is what we need to do. That's how I try to view my style of coaching, and it is quite hard, is that I'll be there with you, I'll be in the trenches, I'll do the work with you, and I'll try and guide you through my experience of that. And then there are other coaches that sit back that maybe would like to do it, would like to jump in and do a race, but don't, and just coach, and that's totally fine as well. There's different styles. Like, there's no right or wrong. I think my style limits me in the amount of people that I can help because of the capacity that I have. So that style, where you are not focusing on your race alone, allows you to therefore help a lot more people, which I think is an amazing service to the community. Mine's a lot more a juggle, like you said, of trying to be Beau, the athlete that is focused on his race, and trying to also not put too much pressure on myself. That I've raced against people that I've coached in my same heat. So I'm trying to beat you, but I've coached you to get you. So it's pretty funny. But I've come through a circle of like taking the stress out of it by just being like, we're all here to have a crack. Everyone's gonna, there's gonna be people that I'm chasing, people that I'm coaching that are in it, people that are friends of mine. I've taken the stress away from the thing, and it's made it a lot more enjoyable. I'm sure that there are tons of coaches out there that might be listening, may not, that are struggling with that fact that you said of like, shit, I need to be there for this person, and Jordan's racing, but Beau's over here, and I've got to be in. How do I get to him? And all you can do is just cheer on from the side and say, good luck. Like, hope it goes well. And at the end of it, you get data, and you assess the data, and you go, this is where you can improve. This is where we might have had a slip up. We might have ran an extra lap, which happens quite quite consistently all the time. I've had many an athlete just randomly run an extra loop because you lose concentration, and there's lights and there's DJ. It's like sick. You just added like 3 minutes for no reason. Or penalties, which Nat and Tones would have talked about with the judging. That stuff happens as well. So there's things that are outside of your control. All you can do as a coach is get the athlete there. And I try to teach them along the way. My next camp will be in the lead up to Melbourne. I get far more enjoyment out of getting a large group of people through a workout on a Sunday at 8 o'clock that are all training towards the same goal than I would of doing this by myself. So that's my reason for doing it. And I just hope that they get a good service out of what I can offer to them. But there's a million people that are doing it and getting around it, and no one's got the right secret sauce, as I mentioned.
I think like I think though the different styles gravitates towards certain type of athletes, and I think it brings value. Like, you know, what you are displaying when it comes to out there being an athlete as well, I think just gives value to that particular athlete that needs that. You know what I mean? Like, because I think everybody is going to need something different, whether it be that coach that is not competing, so has more time, let's say, to maybe text the person or be there or whatever it might be. But I think like what probably athletes appreciate when it comes to like who you coach is the fact that you have that experience. Because I know like for me with running, that's what I appreciate in my coaches and the coaches that I've had in the past is they've been out there as well for many years, and sometimes they're, you know, the same race that I'm doing really. And I think just having that practical approach to it is value that, you know, those other coaches maybe can't. And again, like that's just a particular athlete that needs that really. So I feel like because it is such a big space, like there is room for, you know, a lot of, let's say, coaches or a lot of athletes or whatever it might be, because I think like naturally everybody's going to need something different, really.
It's like tribes, right? Like you go there on the day and there's tribes of people all wearing the same t-shirt and the same colors and they're representing their gym, and there's like this sense of pride that I'm a part of this community. I love that side of it. And that's just for me. Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of Sports Day, which is hilarious because that's what it actually gets called, Adult Sports Day a lot, which is hilarious.
Kind of is, but
yeah,
that's
it's
cool, isn't it?
I used to love Sports Day.
Yeah.
You wear my red hair and go for my 100-meter sprint.
There you go.
But then you can take it so seriously when you're out there as well that you're trying to get the most out of yourself and push yourself to limits where your heart rate's through the roof and your heart rate's in your mouth and you're like, okay, this is pretty hard. And you're doing hard things. I think that's everyone's just trying to get after it themselves, which is pretty cool. But no, it's done a lot for the space. It's good.
When it comes to behind the scenes, when it comes to, let's say, training for Melbourne or training for anything, let's say any race that you're doing, like naturally people are going to have niggles, injuries, naturally bumps in the road when it comes to poor nutrition or this and that. What kind of things have you had to work around and deal with when it comes to the last 2 years, really?
This will be the biggest shout out for Max Duncan, who it's probably my most where most of my money goes through most of this. So back in September last year, I was in the start tunnel. I was getting ready for my pro doubles race, and I, for some reason, felt like shoeing the chooks out of, if everyone knows what shoeing the chooks are, it's like where you do this dynamic hamstring stretch where you shoe past your leg. And I felt this pop on the right side of my leg, right up really high near the connection of my glute and hamstring. And I was like, that's not good. Like, I was actually petrified that the next step I took, so I stood really still, and I was like, the next step I take, I don't know if my leg's going to collapse. And that's how it felt. It was the weirdest feeling. And the diagnosis was a tendon tear. To which grade, I don't know. Like, it happened, and then I just never really bothered too much to think outside of, I just need to get through this next hour. So the pop happened. My brain went into freak out mode. My partner turned around and was like, don't be a fucking pussy, which was great because he didn't know what had happened and he had no idea that I was in this state of like, just go numb. And I had to change my running gait really quickly. So as soon as I took off, I was like, all right, I've got no power through my right leg. I had to change how I ran through the entire race. So I went onto my tippy toes and pulled out a fast time, of which I hadn't had done up until that point, which I was blown away by. I was very lucky that he probably carried most of the station work without me noticing, but being able to run a decent enough time that I was blown away that I got through the race with that. So had the relay a day or two later. I can't remember the exact timeline. It was like Friday race, Saturday physio in Perth. Just went and got a check on like, what have I actually done here? Lots of pain meds. Did the relay, which you do 2 runs and 2 stations. I was clearly the weak link in a team of 4 by a mile. because every time we had the lead, we lost it when I went to the station. Sorry, boys. But no, but that for me has been my biggest hurdle. Coming back from that's 12 months ago. I'm still dealing with it to this day. So I've had PRP injections, which they take plasma out and they flush it and they put it back in the hope to speed up recovery. I've had MRIs. I've had weekly physio, so every Thursday I go and see Maxi down at base. He's been amazing in treating me to navigate my way through a high training load whilst battling, like, you might need to change this or you might need to pull back. It has limited me in things that I can and can't do, so I can't run at top speed. I see a lot of people doing track stuff for Hyrox, so I would love to go to the track once a week and go and hit out a really nice high interval session, but I just can't, because the hangover for me from anyone who's had a tendon injury before, it's 2 to 3 days where I'm cooked, and it restricts me in a lot, like bending over hurts. So it's a really annoying pain. I would quite happily go and get, if anyone knows the answer to what can fix this, apart from just strength training, mobility work, doing all the little grindy homework that I, unfortunately, like you mentioned before, tell my coach I don't do enough of. All the stuff that I know I should be doing, I'll prioritize like a bigger hit out over doing the really small 20-minute grindy stuff, which is probably actually going to help me. So I think that's my problem. And I just need to listen to myself talk back on this podcast to remind myself to go and do it. But it's because you just get caught up. And I think you think you're going to be all right. You think you're Superman. And that's been the biggest mental hurdle for me, is just knowing when to go and knowing when to pull back, which you talked a bit on earlier. And from coaching athletes, it's the same thing. I've had a guy that had like meniscus, so it was like a really bad knee clean out, and we had to change his entire prep to he couldn't run. So when you're training for a running event and you can't run, it just taught me as a coach, and it wasn't someone that I could see face to face. It was all online. He was working away at the time, and he taught me things about what he could do that I've never seen an athlete do before. So that's someone that takes it to the nth degree, which he is. I look up to him a lot, like just in the space of like how deliberate he is and what he applies himself to, and how he was able to still do his threshold training through data on his watch. And we spoke every day, and we FaceTimed, and we did as much of a one-on-one service as we could have done in the lead up. And he got through his next race, and he was running, and he got the time he wanted, and it's crazy. But it showed me that it's like, you just have to be able to pivot, and you have to be able to make changes. I might not be able to run at top speed all the time, but when I can, I just do it, smart ways. And I brought in the bike, which has been incredible for like VO2 work. We don't have an air bike where I am at the moment, but like that would be an easy, if anyone's like struggling running, because running is the thing that beats people up a lot. It's like an air bike, Concept 2, things that you can move on, like the rower, the ski, where you're still getting your heart rate up, you're still pushing yourself. It might not be the same stimulus, but it can definitely still get you fit. Sure.
I think what you've mentioned is quite key, especially when you are maybe at a certain level, when you have a certain goal, really, because things are naturally going to come up. And like you said, you need to be able to pivot. You need to be able to, switch gears a little bit so that you can keep on going. Because I think it's very natural to want to stop. And that's probably not the answer, because a lot of the times, let's say you want to hit a certain goal, let's say you're at a certain level, you can't stop. And that's probably something that I think some people just can't understand, because they might be in a position where they can stop because maybe their why is a bit different or whatever, really. But I think for the people that, let's say, are at maybe a higher level, or maybe the people that are really honed in on a certain goal, like, you kind of have to, like you were saying, pivot really, and understanding what flares you up, what doesn't really. Like, I probably from September, so I had the half Ironman November. September's my Achilles went, still managed to get through. And then from November until Gold Coast, which was like just a month ago, really. Left Achilles, right Achilles, just back and forth, back and forth. And again, like you were saying, like I still did every session. I still raced. I still, went out there, but it's about really pivoting and figuring out, like, I probably didn't ever run quicker than like a 3:30 pace, because I knew if it was
you
that,
didn't need to, because that's super fast.
yeah, exactly. But like that was the thing that I knew, like if I hit quicker on a speed session than like 3:45, if I went into the 3:30s, Achilles flare up, gone for a week, really. And it's like things like that where you kind of have to really switch gears and really pivot, because at the end of the day, if you want to hit some of these goals, you can't really stop, and you don't have time to stop. And that's the reality of it.
Your body will put you in a spot where you won't get the choice. There's a lot of people that I've coached, and some that I know that are even just at the gym that I'm at now, where like they'll be unintentionally doing all the work, and then something can go, like injuries can happen like that. It can be the straw that breaks the camel's back, where the lower back goes in a deadlift, where you might have done 100 deadlifts before, and then on that 101st deadlift, your back just seizes up, and you're out for, you actually can't do the things that you wish you could have. So you've got to take everything for like, not just, you've got to take everything not for granted, and not actually appreciate the work that you can go and do. And if you do stuff in it and you're sore, and it's a soreness of DOMS, not the soreness of like, I'm in pain, you should be pretty grateful that you get to move and that you get to do the work in order to do it, because you can have it taken away from you. And there are people that would only wish that they could do the stuff that you can do. So my big things that I've learnt from this hamstring annoyance is I try not to talk about it as much as I'm talking about it now. I try not to complain and just deal with it as it's just a hurdle. And I'll do the stuff on one leg if I need to, and I'll burpee on one leg. And if I program a burpee in there or a lunge and I know that it's probably not for me, then the guys will do that and I'll do something else, and I'll just pivot as long as people look at it as sandbag. Look at it like I'm taking the easy way out, which is also probably true. But that for me is where I'll always try and keep my body moving in whatever modality that is. But it's highlighting the things that I definitely need to and want to improve on, like hiring a strength coach, which I did. Because clearly the thing after all these races that I got to was like, my strength is missing. Like I've got my running to a point where I'm stoked with. I don't want to lose that. But where I fall apart is the stations can just eat me up, where compromise work tends to eat at you. And that's because I haven't exposed myself to enough of that. I might train the house down for a period and a block of training, but I don't actually focus on like, well, what was my strength doing during that time when I'm focusing on my work? You talked about it earlier with like when your focus is on running, but you're not strengthening the muscles or the ligaments or the joints, and then you go and do a really high intense session, which is what a Hyrox is. It's like no wonder why people break down.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. When it comes to like community, because that's a big part of, I think, the why for a lot of people is being out there, being around others, and being part of the community. What is that like when it comes to like making or breaking? Because I think too, like you have, let's say your solo, you have your double event, but I think it goes any, let's say, solo sport, it's not really solo at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you are out there working by yourself, but behind the scenes there's so much more to that, really. So
much.
What in hybrid, what in Hyrox is that community, really? Like, how does that relate to one's success?
I think it's about surrounding yourself with the people that maybe like, it's putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where I'm constantly looking for rooms where I probably and telling myself that I don't belong in. And a lot of that for me comes into like business or wealth, for an example, where like I would love to be around a table of millionaires where I go, shit, I don't fit in here, just to listen. And I think the same goes for training. When you're training, you should be constantly pushing yourself to a level. When I was playing football, there was grades. So there was whatever division your club was in, Div 1 all the way through to Div 7, you then had your grades, your A's, B's, C's and D's. And I would constantly want to push myself. Obviously, there were rules within football clubs, which I don't know if they're the same with running, but where if you're a B grader, you can't just want to go and train with the A's. You have to earn your right to go and train with the A grade. And I loved that. So it was like I'd used to kind of dread Thursdays because when you had a bad game on the weekend, if you were playing A's, it'd be like, oh, I'm playing B's next week. Just because you get pushed to the left. And you're like, oh, this is a roll call and your name doesn't get called. And you're like, sick. And I look back now and I laugh. But back then it meant everything to me. Like sometimes I'd be sweating about like, fuck, I had a really bad game on the weekend. I don't know how this is going to go. When really it's like, who cares? But it made me really appreciate when I did get to train with the A's and potentially play with the A's and against ex-AFL players, SANFL, whatever, because I didn't view myself as that. That's where I learnt the most. And that goes back to me going off topic again with your training. Hopefully you're in a room or you try to get into a room where you're like scared about how you're going to go and not going into rooms that you're like, I'm going to crush this, because then that's comfort. When you are comfortable with something, it makes it easier to attend and you can build your Lego blocks and build volume and consistency, which again is super important. And we talked about it, not everyone's trying to win a gold medal. Like some people are just trying to get the box ticked, which is amazing. But if you're looking to get the most out of yourself and your fitness journey, whether that's through running, I know for me, if running was a focus for me in Adelaide, Runners One's like a really big community where I know that there are people that are out there that I can only wish to run next to in order to see where I'm at. And it would be through encouraging people to go and do those things, to put themselves like that would be uncomfortable for me to go out and do that and probably get my ass whooped and handed to me and be okay and roll up the next day and still be there. Because too many people go up, get their ass handed to them in whatever way it is, and then don't go back. There's a reason I'm not at a fighting gym. It's because I'd get my ass kicked. But if I wanted to go learn, I'd be like, all right, well, you got to go get humbled. And it's a scary experience, but that's where people learn.
I think that imposter syndrome is quite important, like you were saying, to grow and to get to that next stage. Because just like you're saying, like when it comes to, let's say, running, you're not like, I feel like I'm never going to get to that next level if you don't hold on to those people that, let's say, are that much above you. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it does feel like you do feel embarrassed a lot of the times. You do feel like this imposter syndrome is quite large when it comes to putting yourselves in those situations. But a lot of the times it's those people that are putting themselves in the situations that are the successful ones, or, you know, have hit maybe their goal really. Because like you were saying, a lot of the people will go once and not go back, and that's already unfortunately failure there, because you're just not going to get to that next stage really. So I don't know, I think it's a hard thing, because like you can't exactly give somebody a recipe, just go back, you know what I mean? Like it has to be within somehow. You
have to experience it too. Like one thing I would say is like you have to go and try the thing. I'm heavily motivated and driven to one day, I've got no idea why, but stuff in the UK just like excites me. So everything I follow on Instagram, every fitness trend that tends to come out, I see the stuff that goes on in the UK and I watch that. Whereas if you actually said to me, Beau, I've got you a plane ticket, you're going over there, I would be fucking shitting my pants and probably give you every excuse why I don't want to go. So there's this weird desire that like I look at that as like better than, or like what I want to be around. I don't know why. Whether it's social media, whether it's just these things that I see that I deem as like that's a level of coaching or training that I want to go and be around. It's probably in Australia and it's probably in Adelaide, and I'm probably already doing it. And that it's weird that we can get caught up in feeling like that. And I think training's the same. I was going to mention like what people have to be careful of is like when it's a dog eat dog mentality of like there are a lot of people that want the same thing and everyone's hungry and everyone's after it, that there's that sense of like better than, or like, you know, I'm killing this, so I need to go to the next thing. I'm definitely not encouraging that. If anything, I would encourage that person who feels as if they're at the top of where they can get to lift people up around them where they are. instead of this thing of like when it becomes toxic. I don't know if it's the same in run clubs, but Hyrox can feel a bit like that sometimes. It's not the brand's fault. Like, they're trying to get everyone to do the thing, and I've seen it out. What I mean is, like, when people are out on the track and there are some people just there for the first time, there's a fast lane, and then there's a lane where you can go into where I think it's a 4-minute pace is like what they deem as, if you're running that, like, keep to the left and otherwise keep to the right. And I've seen people, I don't do it, but like cop elbows and get pushed out of the way. It gets pretty heated. There's a lot of people on the track.
I think it just goes to, like, some people, unfortunately, in my opinion, feel like their goals are more important than others. And I think that's just that mentality some of the times. You see it in running as well.
Yep.
You know, I'm quite fortunate, like, in Run as One, you have the elite runners, and I have never been made to feel, or I don't think anybody's ever been made to feel like they're less than, you know what I mean? Like, you can run alongside, or not alongside, but, you know, Izzy can be lapping you, you know, out there really. And like, it's just
doing
like
3 laps.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I think like that's the difference between, let's say, a confident, or let's say somebody who, like you were saying, is lifting people up and, you know, bringing experience to the group, because I think it also helps that athlete as well. Like, you know, I'm sure Izzy is doing significant other work behind the scenes as well. She's not just out there those 3 sessions that we have, but like, you know, like, I think you get a lot even at the top level, being out there with people and lifting people up. Like, it does help in that regard as well.
It's less lonely. Like, you could go and do it by yourself. And I know of people that have, you know, done the training for it by themselves, or that have done different camps and that are just built differently, where that's where they get, you know, if you really want to find out about yourself, that's what you go and do. And I'm sure that Ned Brockman had a few of those when he ran from bloody Perth to Sydney, you know. And you can do those. Anyone can do those things. I'm sure that it's through those things that you learn stuff about yourself. And if anyone's listened to his podcast, when he talks about those big runs that he's gone and done, he says how there are times when he's screaming at his camp and he's the one doing the work, and they've given up their jobs, their lives, their however many months it took them to get from their job done to be there for him. And he has just been in this state where he's had to snap because of like the stress that he's under. And I think that's what happens when you're alone, is you start getting caught up in your own head, and it's not healthy. And it's better to be around people where you see someone else in the hurt locker and you're in the hurt locker and you're pushing each other. Like, that's awesome. And it doesn't have to be this big like thing of everyone's against each other and it's gym versus gym and blah blah blah.
It's a big world out there. Like,
it's massive, man. We're small. We're
There's
pretty tiny.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of room out there for everyone, I think.
don't want to get into that. We'll be another couple of hours.
I know. Now,
like, so do aliens exist?
Yeah. Well, exactly. I'm sure there's plenty of podcasts out there that cover this stuff. For the listener out there right now, Beau, what is something that you'd like to leave them with?
The big thing that I talked on actually just today, which I guess because it's in my head and it's fresh, I think is really important, is that evidence is all you need to be able to take the next step in whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's through business, fitness, lifestyle, whatever it is. The evidence that you can prove to yourself that you can do it. Most people don't do things out of fear of, this is going to hurt me, I'm not going to end well, this is going to be horrible, and they stay in a loop, but then they'll continue to complain about that loop until it ends up just eating them. And you notice that things will change, like you'll lose friends, you'll move groups, people will stop, you know, hanging around you, whatever that is, right? So a thing that I was randomly talking about today in one of my classes was, I was like, show yourself the evidence now that you can do whatever it is. I think some people are on the rower. Some were doing a bench press. You know, everyone's doing a different modality of movement. I was like, pick up the heavier dumbbell, do an extra meter on the erg, push a little bit harder for this last 2 minutes, and just show yourself the evidence that you need in your next session to be able to going, I can hit that pace. I can pick up that weight. Yeah, and I think it really worked. It was pretty powerful. And it's not that I haven't done something of the line of that before. I tended to come up with some pretty corny lines, but I know for me, that's just what I've been replaying in my head lately with my own training personally, and with my athletes, is that these guys put in, day out. Not every day is going to be 100%. So just try to provide yourself with evidence that you can do it, and hopefully you'll get the most out of your day, whatever that looks like.
Perfect. Where can people find you if they need coaching or for whatever, really?
Instagram is just my name, so at Beau Williamson. We also have at hybrid.club for any coaching inquiries through there. So obviously heavily leaning towards running and Hyrox training. We're currently working out a V2 Fit, but that's based in Adelaide. We are moving down to level 11 pretty shortly. So V2 Fit will be rebranding as a big health and wellness type facility where we'll be offering 24/7 gym access, where there's machines, treadmills, all that sort of gear, but alongside some stellar coaching classes where we're focusing on strength, conditioning, Hyrox. I think there's reformer and mat Pilates. So if you'd like to come and laugh at me on the on the reformer, probably falling over the bed. And I think I've heard there's a 30-person sauna in there, so I'll be probably doing most of my work in there, relaxing in the budgies. But I don't know. I don't have an open date. I get asked every day, when's it opening? And I'm like, Christmas. but Dan will hate me for saying that. But no, we'll be in that pretty shortly. It's exciting, so definitely get people to come on down.
There you go. So that'll be in the show note for you listening. So you can definitely find that there. But thank you for coming on. 2 years later, lots has happened. Yeah, I know.
Busy.
We're here, we're busy, and, a lot longer than the last episode too. So we covered a lot, which was great.
All right. Let's wait for level 3. Let's see how we go.